Welcome back to our deep dive in understanding what the coronavirus is, how it works, why it's led to a pandemic, and most importantly, how we can learn to protect ourselves both now and in future pandemics. Last episode, we learned that SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus that infects cells by attaching to the protein receptor ACE2, which is found on many of our body cells and shared by all mammals. Most of the damage caused by COVID-19 is due to our body's defenses going into overdrive. Now that we have a basic understanding of this virus, let's take a look at how we develop immunity against viruses, what vaccines are, and how they work. Imagine you and your friends are playing tag. Every time someone is tagged, they also become a tagger, so the game gets more challenging the longer you play. But you've found clever ways to avoid being tagged, like hiding behind objects, climbing a tree, or sprinting away. Now imagine that the people who are it are invisible. The game just got a lot harder. If you can't see any of the taggers, how can you know where they are and avoid them? Pathogens such as viruses and bacteria are like those invisible taggers. They're microscopic and therefore impossible to completely avoid, which is why they can so sneakily cause infections or even pandemics. So how do we win against an invisible foe? Previously, we learned about immunity, which refers to your immune system's ability to defend against and fight off infection and disease. Recall that your adaptive immune system is composed of B and T cells that are capable of learning about and remembering invaders. Their ability to learn makes them an accurate and powerful defense system, but it takes days to produce a clone army to defend you the first time a pathogen invades. In essence, your immune system has to play catch-up during this initial encounter. If all goes well, they successfully kill off the pathogen and develop memory cells, whose job is to remember the invader so that in any future encounters, they can rapidly defeat the invader so that you can avoid getting sick. What happens if our immune system can't catch up? Depending on the pathogen, it could lead to severe illness or death. This can be a major issue for people with weakened immune systems and certain health conditions, such as the elderly and very young children with underdeveloped immune systems. It's important to know that you can get immunity in a few different ways, but the type of immunity you get can either be passive or active. Passive immunity can be gained when a mother passes protective antibodies to her child when she's pregnant. It can also be gained when you receive an antibody injection. However, since your B cells didn't make those antibodies, they'll eventually be used up and the protection will be temporary. Imagine building immunity against diseases is a big test. Passive immunity is similar to having your mom take the test for you or getting all the answers from a friend. You'll pass the test, but you won't learn anything, and when you see those test topics in the future, you won't know what to do. Active immunity, on the other hand, is when your adaptive immune cells learn how to defend you by making their own antibodies, which provides you with long-term protection. Active immunity can be gained by either getting infected or by getting vaccinated. In our test scenario, getting infected is like taking the test without studying and trying to figure out the problems on the fly. Getting vaccinated is like taking a practice test so that you're prepared for the real thing. Why is vaccination important? Out of all the options, vaccination makes the most sense if you want long-term protection and don't want to suffer severe illness or possibly death. Natural infection can train your immune system, but getting sick disrupts your life and can be painful. If your body can't fight off an infection effectively enough, it could leave you with long-lasting health issues or permanent damage. For example, polio is a highly destructive virus that infects your spinal cord and can cause paralysis in your limbs. It can even cause death if it paralyzes your diaphragm, the muscle that enables breathing. Is it worth risking exposure to a dangerous pathogen without protection? Now that we've discussed the purpose of vaccination, let's understand what a vaccine is. A vaccine introduces a weakened or dead form of a pathogen to your B and T cells, who use that information to make antibodies and memory cells that give you immunity. The vaccine mimics an initial exposure to a pathogen so that your adaptive immune cells are given the chance to learn about the pathogen and develop defenses against it. This practice run means that if you encounter that pathogen in real life, your immune system is primed to launch a powerful and rapid response to prevent an infection. Now that we know what a vaccine is, let's see what kinds of vaccines there are out there. There are three major types of traditional vaccines. The first is live attenuated vaccine, or LAV. LAVs are made from weakened versions of pathogens. They're designed to mimic a natural infection without causing the disease. Generally, you only need 1 to 2 doses of an LAV because they stimulate the production of B and T cells and adequately prepare your immune system for future infections. Inactivated vaccines are made from pathogens that have been killed. Because they are dead, the pathogens cannot replicate in our cells or cause disease. Inactivated pathogens can stimulate B cells to produce antibodies, but they don't stimulate T cells. Remember, T cells only get involved when a pathogen infects our cells. As a result, inactivated vaccines tend to produce a less powerful immune system than LAVs and can require several doses or booster shots to adequately prepare your immune system. Inactivated vaccines can generally be administered to everyone, including those with health problems or weakened immune systems. Subunit vaccines contain only the antigenic parts of a dead pathogen. Remember, antigens are viral proteins that help our adaptive immune cells recognize and remember invaders. Subunit vaccines do not contain any live components of a virus, so they cannot cause illness. Their job is to train your immune system to recognize pathogens for future protection. Like inactivated vaccines, subunit vaccines may need booster shots for ongoing protection, and they can generally be used by everyone. So, how exactly are vaccines developed? First, researchers must study the pathogen extensively. Then, they manufacture a vaccine and conduct lab trials to see if the vaccine is safe and effective. If it is, they then conduct many rounds of clinical trials with volunteers to test the vaccine's safety and efficacy in people. If and only if the clinical trials are successful, the researchers can apply for approval and begin manufacturing and distributing the vaccine. It's important to note that vaccine development is tightly regulated. Scientists must seek approval at each stage to carry on with their research. After a vaccine is made available to the public, it continues to be closely monitored and regulated. Follow up studies are conducted, and regulatory agencies like the FDA and CDC closely monitor and address any reports of negative effects from vaccines. So, what types of vaccines exist for COVID 19? There are currently three main types of COVID 19 vaccines authorized for use in the US. The first is a subunit vaccine that's made from the COVID-2 spike protein. When introduced, our adaptive immune cells learn to remember it as foreign and will attack any invader carrying that protein. mRNA vaccines have also been developed for COVID 19. Remember, mRNA is a special type of RNA that carries a copy of the instructions contained in the DNA to a ribosome for protein synthesis. mRNA vaccines are composed of mRNA that code for the COVID-2 spike protein wrapped inside a phospholipid bubble. The phospholipid bubble protects the mRNA from being broken down during transport and helps deliver the mRNA to your cells. Once the mRNA is inside your cells, the cell's ribosomes use it to produce the COVID-2 spike protein, which they then present to immune cells, triggering an adaptive immune response and the production of antibodies and memory cells. After a while, the mRNA breaks down and your cells stop producing the COVID-2 spike protein. The third type of vaccine that has been developed for COVID 19 is a viral vector vaccine. This vaccine contains the genetic information of COVID-2 that encodes the spike protein inside a weak or harmless virus. The virus helps mimic a natural infection and delivers the genetic material to our cells, which then produce the COVID-2 spike protein and present it to immune cells, triggering an adaptive immune response. The delivered genetic material is broken down after a while. Many people have been wondering if the COVID 19 vaccines are safe. These vaccines are new, as opposed to other vaccines having taken much longer to develop, so it makes sense as to why people would be worried. Here's a few important things to know about the safety of these vaccines. First, none of the vaccines contain the SARS CoV 2 virus. They only contain the information about the virus's key antigen, which teaches your cells how to fight the virus in future encounters. Second, the mRNA and DNA being introduced to your cells aren't able to become part of your DNA. As you've learned in protein synthesis, mRNA doesn't enter the nucleus where DNA is stored. The only way a live virus could splice its genes into your DNA is by using a special viral enzyme called integrase. The vaccines don't contain the COVID-2 virus or this viral enzymes. Third, the vaccine technology involved has actually been around for decades. Scientists have worked with mRNA and viral vector vaccines extensively, studying them for viruses such as Ebola and flu. Unlike traditional vaccines, these vaccines are much faster and cheaper to produce because they can be made from readily available materials. Lastly, COVID 19 vaccines are held to the same safety and effectiveness standards as all other vaccines. The major COVID 19 vaccines have been evaluated and monitored closely in clinical trials. Some may worry that getting a vaccine might make you feel under the weather. That happens because your adaptive immune cells are hard at work running through a simulated infection scenario, which can trigger symptoms like headaches or mild fever. It's similar to when you run through a fire drill at school. There's no fire, but you still go through all the steps for practice. Others may worry about having a severe allergic reaction to a vaccine. While that's possible, it's very rare, and doctors actively screen for allergies to prevent this from happening. We can't say that vaccines are zero risk, but when we look at the number of confirmed cases in which someone's bad reaction was caused by a vaccine, the chance of it happening is extremely low. When making most decisions, you have to balance cost versus benefit. The mild symptoms we might experience after getting a vaccine are much less severe than if we were to get infected and risk hospitalization, death, or passing the virus onto someone vulnerable. You can think of vaccines as being similar to the airbags of a car. While there's a chance you could get injured from an airbag during a car accident, the airbag will more likely help save your life. Last but not least, vaccines don't cause autism. This idea was first circulated by a falsified study done in 1998. It has been debunked countless times, and the main researcher lost his license to practice medicine for falsifying information. Unfortunately, the damage caused by this myth still affects children globally today. The main goal of COVID 19 vaccines is to protect us from becoming severely ill, getting hospitalized, or dying. When large numbers of people become hospitalized, hospitals can get overwhelmed. This means that supplies may run out, and all patients, including the ones with COVID 19, won't be able to get the help they need. Based on the information we have so far, all of the COVID 19 vaccines have shown that they're effective in drastically increasing people's protection against becoming severely ill from the virus. So, how do we put an end to this pandemic once and for all? The three main things that will help us move forward are slowing the spread, vaccinating, and cooperating with one another. In order to prevent more infections, we must practice physical distancing and good hygiene, wear masks, quarantine any individuals who have potentially been exposed to the virus, and test for any active virus carriers. This can be done through antibody testing, which detects if you have produced antibodies against COVID-2 due to exposure. As awful as social distancing feels, a virus can't spread if it can't encounter new victims. These actions limit virus transmission and lower the number of people being admitted into and overwhelming our healthcare facilities. Although these strategies help delay the severity of this pandemic, it can't completely stop the spread because we live in a global community and it's impossible to be totally isolated. We need cooperation to put an end to this pandemic. The virus will not discriminate who it infects, so we're all equally at risk. The only way we can live our lives without worrying about COVID 19 is to develop immunity. As we've learned, the only two ways to gain long term immunity are infection or vaccination. Infection means that many more people will get sick, and some of them, especially those who are most vulnerable, may die. Level of health is different for each person, and we can't know everyone's health status. Would it be fair to put our family, friends, or passerbys on the street at risk? Don't forget that viruses can evolve. More infections means greater opportunity for the viruses to mutate into something new, which might create another pandemic wave. If we want to avoid infection spread, hospitalizations, and deaths, the other alternative is to be vaccinated. Remember that viruses convert your body into a virus factory. Vaccination allows your immune system to eliminate the virus quickly, therefore preventing the virus from infecting more people. Community vaccination also helps develop herd immunity, which is where most of the population gains immunity through vaccination, limiting the spread of the virus due to the smaller number of unprotected people who can be infected. The hardest thing about fighting viruses is that they're an invisible foe. In a world where we can't physically see the bacteria and viruses around us, the best thing we can do is to take caution and look out for each other so we can get through this together. Everything you say and do creates an impact. Ultimately, the steps and actions we choose now will determine the outcome for this pandemic and future pandemics to come. Thank you for taking this journey with us and exploring the virus behind COVID 19. Our series ends here, but we hope you'll never stop asking questions and looking for answers in reliable places. Most importantly, we hope you'll always remember that your words and actions have an impact. So let's move through life with compassion for ourselves and others.